When catastrophe hits without warning, will your household be prepared? Statistics show the majority of families lack basic emergency supplies. Government agencies emphasize preparedness because disasters aren't hypothetical anymore, they're inevitable. Stay tuned as I reveal 10 essential emergency supplies recommended by disaster management experts for every American home. Plus, I'll cover additional preparedness items many overlook but could prove vital in crisis situations. Hello, I'm David, a dedicated emergency preparedness researcher and equipment evaluator who spent more than 10 years studying official disaster response guidelines, analyzing real emergency scenarios, and testing survival equipment. Throughout this video, I'll guide you through each of the 10 supplies disaster preparedness agencies officially recommend for household emergency kits. Following that, I'll introduce several underappreciated yet vital additions that standard lists don't always mention, but absolutely should. Believe me, you'll want to pay attention to number 9. It's likely the most forgotten yet most essential supply on this list. Have you observed any supply shortages or increased prices on emergency preparedness items in your community, like packaged water, protective masks, or medical supplies? Share your observations in the comments section. It benefits other viewers stay informed and ready, too. Item number 1, water. Let's begin with the most vital supply on any emergency preparedness list, water. Without adequate hydration, human survival becomes precarious within just days. That's why emergency management experts recommend maintaining at least 1 gallon of water per individual per day for no less than 3 days. If your household includes 5 people, that's 15 gallons of water as a baseline. This isn't solely for consumption. That daily gallon also accounts for meal preparation, dental hygiene, and fundamental sanitation like hand washing or facial cleaning. It might seem modest, but when municipal water systems fail, every ounce becomes precious. Now, let's discuss storage methods. The positive aspect, water storage doesn't require significant investment. One of the simplest approaches is purchasing gallon containers from your neighborhood market. They typically cost approximately $1 per unit. You can accumulate supplies progressively. Simply purchase 1 or 2 additional containers during routine shopping trips. Gradually, you'll establish a complete emergency hydration reserve stored in closets or beneath furniture. Alternatively, you can utilize larger vessels like 5-gallon or 7-gallon stackable water containers. These are space-efficient, reusable, and frequently include integrated dispensing mechanisms for convenient pouring. If space is limited, they're an intelligent choice. When storing water, always maintain it in cool, dark locations away from direct sunlight and chemical substances. Avoid garages or outdoor structures that experience temperature extremes in summer months. Plastic vessels can degrade over time, particularly in heat, which may compromise water purity. Now, here's something critical. Don't neglect to rotate your water reserves. Even commercially bottled water has expiration considerations. Specialists recommend refreshing your stored water every 6 months to 1 year. An effective tracking method, use a permanent marker and note the storage date directly on each vessel. But what occurs if you're unprepared and lack water stored? In emergency situations, you can fill your bathtub immediately upon learning of an approaching disaster, like a hurricane. This provides dozens of additional gallons. You can also fill empty beverage bottles, pitchers, or cooking pots. Just ensure whatever vessel you utilize is sanitized. Item number 2, non-perishable food supplies. All right, now let's discuss non-perishable food supplies, the second supply emergency agencies recommend for every household's preparedness kit. Just like hydration, nutrition is a fundamental necessity we frequently overlook until it becomes unavailable. Emergency guidelines advise maintaining at least 3 days' worth of non-perishable food per individual. If your household includes 5 people, that's 45 meals you'll need stored away. Sounds substantial, right? But don't worry, it's more manageable and affordable than you might imagine. First, let's examine your possibilities. Canned products are probably the most accessible and economical method to establish a 72-hour food reserve. Consider beans, soups, canned poultry or fish, vegetables, chili, even canned fruits. Most of these products have a preservation period of 2 to 5 years, sometimes considerably longer if stored appropriately. They're available at any grocery store, and you can gradually accumulate supplies just by purchasing a few additional cans during regular shopping excursions. Another excellent possibility, ready-to-eat meals. These are the same meal types utilized by military personnel, outdoor enthusiasts, and preparedness advocates. They arrive fully packaged, include eating utensils, and some even contain self-heating mechanisms so you can warm them without cooking appliances or fire. One ready-to-eat meal usually contains between 1,200 and 2,000 calories, which is more than sufficient to provide at least one meal, sometimes even two if you're conserving. Best of all, they're lightweight, compact, and have a preservation period of up to 5 years. Now, if you're seeking long-term, low-maintenance food storage, then freeze-dried meals are your optimal choice. You've probably encountered those large containers at outdoor recreation stores or online retailers. Many of them provide 60 to 100 plus servings, and they can last up to 25 years if stored in cool, dry conditions. Item number 3, emergency radio. Let's proceed to what I consider one of the most undervalued lifesavers in any emergency, the emergency radio. When disaster strikes and electrical power fails, your mobile device battery depletes, internet connectivity disappears, and there's no television, how will you receive information? That's where a quality hand-crank radio or solar-powered emergency radio becomes absolutely vital. Emergency management specifically recommends having a battery-powered or hand-crank radio, and ideally one that can also charge via solar energy or USB. These radios are your direct connection to real-time emergency broadcasts, meteorological updates, and alerts from the National Weather Service or local authorities. In a crisis, staying informed can determine the difference between safety and danger. Let me illustrate a scenario. When Hurricane Sandy struck New York City in 2012, entire neighborhoods lost power for days, some for weeks. Distribution stations, shelters, and assistance centers were established just blocks from people's residences, but many residents were completely unaware they existed. Why? No internet, no television, and they didn't have an emergency radio. They were isolated. Had they owned a basic hand-crank radio, they could have accessed AM, FM, or weather channels and learned exactly where to obtain help. Now let's discuss features. A quality emergency radio should have at least 3 power alternatives. Hand crank, when all other options fail, just crank it manually and generate power. Excellent for staying charged, even in complete darkness. Solar panel, position it outdoors during daylight. Let the sun provide the energy. USB charging port, ideal for charging it from a portable power bank, vehicle, or laptop when you still have access. Some of the best emergency radios also include built-in flashlights, emergency alert sirens, and even mobile device charging ports, so you can power up your phone enough to make a brief call or send a message. Item number 4, first aid kit. Let's be honest, nobody wants to contemplate getting injured during a disaster. But when electrical power fails, hospitals are overwhelmed, or transportation routes are blocked, your capability to treat minor injuries at home becomes absolutely critical. That's why emergency agencies place the first aid kit right near the top of the emergency supply list. A quality household first aid kit isn't just about having a few adhesive bandages and pain relievers available. It's about being prepared to handle cuts, burns, infections, sprains, and even basic wound management when professional help might be hours or days away. Let's examine the contents. At the very minimum, your kit should include adhesive bandages in various sizes, sterile gauze pads, medical tape, antiseptic wipes or solution, antibiotic ointment, tweezers and scissors, pain relievers like acetaminophen,
ibuprofen, aspirin, gloves, non-latex, thermometer, burn cream or gel. Now let's discuss extras that can make a significant difference in a real-world emergency. First, burn gel, because house fires, cooking mishaps, and even heating water during a blackout can result in burns. Having something that cools and treats the skin available can help prevent infection and accelerate healing. Next, make sure you maintain over-the-counter medications beyond just pain relievers. Consider allergy medications like diphenhydramine, especially if someone in your family has mild allergic reactions. Anti-diarrheal medication, yes, it occurs in disasters, and cold and flu medicine. If you or someone in your household requires prescription medications, consult your physician if you can obtain an extra 30-day supply to store with your emergency equipment. That can be a literal lifesaver if pharmacies are closed or inaccessible.
And here's something many people overlook: infection control. In a prolonged emergency where you might lose access to clean running water, even a minor cut or scrape can develop into a serious problem. Without proper hygiene and disinfection, infections can escalate rapidly. That's why having antiseptics, gloves, and sterile instruments is so important. Item number 5, whistle. Out of all the supplies on emergency preparedness lists, this next one might seem the least impressive until you require it. I'm discussing a simple whistle. Now, I understand what you're thinking. A whistle? Really? But listen carefully. In a disaster scenario, especially one involving structural damage like a tornado, earthquake, or flood, your capability to be heard could be the only thing that gets you rescued. When your mobile device is dead, your voice is hoarse, and you're trapped, a whistle can cut through the noise when nothing else can. Let's recall Hurricane Katrina. Many survivors were trapped in their residences, some for days after floodwaters forced them into attics and rooftops. First responders were moving through neighborhoods by boat and helicopter, attempting to locate people who needed help. Some people banged on walls, others yelled themselves hoarse. Those with whistles had a clear, loud signal that didn't require shouting or battery power. Item number 6, dust masks. And next up is something that might not seem significant until the air around you turns hazardous. I'm discussing dust masks, or even better, N95 respirators. Emergency preparedness guidelines recommend keeping them in your emergency kit, and it's easy to understand why. Let's examine this carefully. In a wide range of disasters, air quality becomes a major threat. Consider wildfires, earthquakes, industrial accidents, or even pandemics. Inhaling smoke, ash, debris, or airborne pathogens can cause serious damage, not just to your respiratory system, but to your long-term health. That's why something as simple as a dust mask could be a game changer. There are different levels of protection here, and not all masks are created equal. At the basic level, you have your standard dust masks, the kind you might find at a hardware store or discount shop. These are better than nothing, but honestly, they offer very minimal protection. They might help with large dust particles, but won't provide much defense against smoke, fine ash, or airborne pathogens. Next up, you have surgical masks, the blue ones we all wore during the pandemic. These are designed to protect others from your droplets, not necessarily to protect you from breathing in dangerous particles. They have significant air leakage and offer only mild filtration. Now, if you really want solid protection, choose an N95 respirator. These are specifically designed to filter out 95% of airborne particles as small as 0.3 microns, including smoke, dust, bacteria, and even viruses. The key is the fit. N95s form a tight seal around your nose and mouth, meaning significantly less air sneaks in through the sides. N95s are also used in industrial settings to protect against dust, smoke, and fumes, which makes them an ideal choice for emergencies. Item number 7, plastic sheeting and duct tape. Now, let's discuss an item that might raise a few eyebrows: plastic sheeting and duct tape. At first glance, this combination sounds like something from a DIY home improvement video, not an emergency survival guide. But don't be mistaken.
Emergency agencies include these in official emergency supply lists for a very specific reason. They can help you create a safe, sealed environment in situations where the air outside becomes a threat. Here's the concept. Plastic sheeting and duct tape are used to create what's called a shelter-in-place environment. That means sealing off a room in your home from outside air, whether it's due to chemical contamination, biological threats, or even radioactive fallout. Let's say, for example, there's a nearby industrial accident that releases toxic gas, or a freight train derails and chemicals are leaking into the air. You may not be able to evacuate in time. In those scenarios, having the capability to quickly seal off vents, windows, and doors can keep contaminated air out and give you and your family a safe breathing zone until help arrives or conditions improve. Here's how you use them. Choose an interior room with as few windows and doors as possible, usually a bathroom or laundry room. Use the plastic sheeting to cover all the vents, openings, windows, and any gaps where outside air could enter. Seal the edges with duct tape to make them airtight. Item number 8. Sanitation supplies. Let's discuss one of the most overlooked and, honestly, least glamorous parts of emergency preparedness: sanitation. Emergency guidelines recommend stocking up on moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic ties. And while this might not sound exciting, it's absolutely crucial. Why?
Because when the water stops running and the toilets stop flushing, things can deteriorate very quickly. In a disaster situation, whether it's a power outage, a flood, or an earthquake, it's common for people to lose access to plumbing. That means no toilet, no sink, and no showers. And trust me, poor hygiene can spiral into bigger problems rapidly. We're discussing infections, illness, and even disease outbreaks, especially if you're confined indoors with your family for days. So, let's break down what emergency preparedness is really asking you to prepare for. Moist towelettes. These are your solution for staying clean when there's no running water. Use them to wash your hands, clean your face, or even wipe down surfaces. You can get large value packs at warehouse stores or travel-size versions for portable bags. Alcohol-based wipes are best because they also disinfect. Think of them as your no-water hygiene station. Garbage bags and plastic ties. This is where things get real. When your toilet doesn't flush, you need a backup plan. The simplest and most common method is what preparedness advocates call the bucket toilet. It's exactly what it sounds like. Line a 5-gallon bucket with a heavy-duty trash bag. Do your business. Tie it off and seal it. Done. Instant toilet. You can even place the bag directly in your toilet bowl if you prefer to sit as usual. Just make sure the water line is turned off. After each use, tie the bag tightly and store it outside in a sealed trash container until proper disposal is possible. Having extra garbage bags on hand also helps for regular trash, wet clothes, and isolating contaminated items if someone's sick. Item number 9. Wrench and pliers. Okay, let's shift focus from hygiene to hardware, because the next recommended item isn't just about survival, it's about control. You'll want to keep a wrench and a pair of pliers in your emergency supply kit. Why? Because in many disaster scenarios, you might need to manually shut off your utilities, especially gas and water lines. And if you can't, you risk turning a bad situation into a dangerous one. Let's say an earthquake strikes your area and your gas line gets damaged, or there's flooding and your water main becomes contaminated. If you don't shut off those utilities quickly, it could lead to a fire, explosion, or widespread contamination inside your home. That's where having the right tools ready to go can make all the difference. This is where a gas shutoff wrench comes in handy. Some homes actually have a shutoff valve right next to the gas meter. All it takes is a quarter turn with the right size wrench to stop gas from flowing, but most people don't know where it is, much less how to turn it off. Pro tip: learn that now. Walk around your home, find the shutoff valves, and make sure you know how to operate them before something goes wrong. Your emergency kit should include An adjustable wrench, useful for turning off gas or water valves. A solid pair of pliers in case you need extra grip or cutting power. A multi-tool as a backup or for smaller tasks around the house or vehicle. And here's a bonus tip. Consider attaching your wrench directly to your gas meter with a zip tie or storing it somewhere nearby, because when a disaster strikes, the last thing you want to do is go searching through a toolbox or garage full of clutter. Also, don't forget that basic tools can come in handy for emergency repairs, like securing a tarp over a broken window, adjusting a generator, or even shutting off individual water lines inside your home. Most importantly, practice using them. It doesn't take long to learn how to shut off your gas and water lines, but knowing what to do ahead of time could prevent everything from minor damage to total disaster. So, while a wrench and pliers might not seem like survival gear, they absolutely are. In an emergency, they give you the power to protect your home, your safety, and your peace of mind. Item number 10. Manual can opener. This next item might sound basic, but it's so commonly forgotten that it deserves its own spotlight. Emergency preparedness lists include it for good reason. The humble manual can opener. Think about it. You stocked up on canned food, got your 72-hour supply lined up, maybe even went the extra mile with hearty soups, beans, vegetables, fruits. Great job. But when the power goes out and your electric can opener doesn't work, or worse, when you realise you never owned one, how are you getting into all those cans? A manual can opener for emergencies is small, inexpensive, and, honestly, absolutely essential. Without it, your stash of non-perishable food becomes a very expensive collection of sealed metal you can't access. Now let's get practical. Not all manual can openers are created equal.
Some are awkward to hold, rust easily, or break after a few uses. When choosing one for your disaster food supplies, look for a sturdy stainless steel model that won't rust over time, a comfortable, easy-to-grip handle, a smooth cutting motion that won't leave sharp edges. There are also military-style compact can openers, super small and often included in ready-to-eat meal kits. They're excellent as backups, but can be tough on the hands. So if you have arthritis or limited hand strength, opt for a traditional turning-style opener. And here's a quick pro tip. Don't store your can opener separately from your food supplies. Keep it right in the same container or bag as your canned goods, or in your main emergency kit. Because if you're hungry and tired and the power's out, the last thing you want to do is tear the house apart looking for it. Also, consider having more than one. Seriously, they're inexpensive. Place a spare in your vehicle emergency kit, portable bug-out bag, or even your camping gear. Redundancy isn't just smart, it's survival common sense. And while we're on the subject, you may also want to keep a few combined utensils or mess kits with your emergency food stash. Opening a can of chili with no spoon in sight isn't exactly fun. So yeah, it's not glamorous and it's definitely not high-tech, but a good old-fashioned manual can opener might just be your most used survival tool when the lights go out. If you found this video helpful, give it a like to help spread the message, because you never know who might need this information before it's too late. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I've got more life-saving survival guides, equipment reviews, and real-world tips coming your way regularly.